OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British Airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.
Hello, very good morning to you. Hope you're well. I'm Ben Leo on The Late Show Live tonight.
Shabana Mahmood is hard as nails, and whether it is tackling disorder and lawlessness on our streets or tackling the insecurity at our borders, you can expect a tough and effective approach from this Home Secretary.
Yeah, but be careful how tough that approach is, because breaking tonight, the new Equalities Chair is warning against the, quote, demonisation of migrants and says leaving the ECHR would be a mistake. Also, do you remember this guy?
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs.
Boring. Well, he's back and he'll be delivering Channel 4's alternative Christmas message. The topic? Fascism. And here in Britain, Father Christmas is too white and should stop putting children on the naughty list. I've been on the website of the group that made this bold claim today, and you'll be surprised at the makeup of their organisation. Meanwhile, over in America...
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologise for being white anymore.
That's the Vice President J.D. Vance over in America. He's declared woke diversity schemes dead under President Trump. Hurrah! And even pop star rapper Nicki Minaj has weighed in.
I don't need someone with blonde hair and blue eyes to downplay their beauty, because I know my beauty.
Hello, good morning. Hope you're well. Thank you for your company on The Late Show Live. Tonight, a warning from Britain's own Equalities Chair. She's new in the job, but it tells you everything you need to know. Her name is Mary Ann Stevenson, and she's issued a fresh warning against leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, and has called for politicians to stop demonising illegal migrants. She says the idea that migration causes huge risks for the country can make the lives of not just migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very, very difficult. So I suppose the government really should stop coming out with these hateful statements then.
I see my own constituents deeply worried about the community tensions and a system that is out of control and is unfair. So the concern about migration is something that is shared by British people of every background and every ethnicity in this country.
Right, joining me on the panel this evening, the journalist and broadcaster Matthew Stadlen, the US political commentator Jennifer Ewing, and GB News contributor and superstar Paul Cox. Welcome along, panel. Good evening. Merry Christmas to you. This is a breaking story in the last few moments. It was embargoed at midnight. This is the new chair of the Equalities Commission, Matthew Stadlen. And she's saying, don't call migration a threat, warning against the kind of language that we're seeing from even the Labour government. What's your take?
I think she's saying don't demonise migrants, and I think that's right. So the government is attempting to enforce our borders, and some would say it hasn't done a particularly effective job of that. I would argue that I don't think reform would either, but we can get into that detail a bit later if you want. There's one thing to say people shouldn't be crossing the channel, coming to this country illegally, and another to try and fearmonger amongst the 60, 70 million of us, that these people represent a terrible and disproportionate threat. And I think, yeah, well, you do it quite often on your show, which is one of the reasons why I'm on the show, to push back against it. Why do you think I'm here at midnight, 3 days before Christmas? I'm sure there'll be many examples as the show develops.
Let's start as we mean to go on.
I almost don't feel I can repeat this on national television, but you said to me when you were sitting in America in Washington, D.C., and I was sitting in my kitchen, that Afghans in general cannot be trusted, which I thought was an absolutely outrageous and bigoted thing to say.
I'll stick by it.
Well, it's an outrageous and disgraceful thing to say.
They are...
Because it's like saying men can't be trusted, because we know that men are responsible for the vast majority of sexual assaults. We're going to get there already. You've asked for an example, but I just want to make my key point first, because I want to set out my stall. I believe in borders. We absolutely need to have borders. We need to be able to do our very best to control who comes in and out of this country. Right. I accept that the small boats issue is an issue, but I don't think that spreading hate about those people is remotely acceptable.
Okay. It's not hatred. It's not hateful to say that there are cultures and countries in the world who don't share the same views as we do on, say, women or the sanctity of life or whatever else. Jennifer?
Well, I think the most interesting part would be the difference just between legal and illegal. And perhaps if we could stop illegal people coming from here, then there wouldn't be this sort of prejudice against the people who are here legally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would sort of just clean up that.
Or we could just stop being prejudiced against anyone, and we should, as I said,
we need to be prejudiced against someone.
If somebody's broken the law, then certainly they're open to criticism.
Also, by the way,
first act is to illegally cross the border. You've broken the law of the country.
By the way, this Quango, the Equalities Commission, paid for by taxpayers, run now by a woman, a career middle classer who's been a lawyer for how many decades. She is immune because of her wealth and her position. She is immune from the effects of over-migration and illegal migration.
Well, she wouldn't have sexual assault, is she?
She wouldn't have a damn clue.
Middle-class people can't be sexually assaulted. Come on, Ben. We're all in the same boat together, as you know.
No, that's not true.
Boat's an interesting choice of words, Matthew. Look, the crime that people are being accused of here is noticing. So people are noticing that illegal immigration is causing a problem. The reason they're noticing is because every other day there's a story in every paper, whichever way it's leaning, that there has been an illegal immigrant that's committed a crime, largely sexual crime. So the crime is noticing. People aren't. There's an old phrase, isn't it? You can't unknow something that you already know. Once you know that this per capita, this statistic exists, you can't unknow it. And the reason that the reason there's this sort of prejudice being built is because every time someone notices, they're also told it's not happening. So every time someone notices that it seems to be illegal immigration, and it seems to be largely Afghan, Somali men that are committing the crimes.
Sorry, largely, you're seriously claiming on national television that sexual assault
amongst the illegal immigrant cohort. Amongst the illegal immigrant cohort.
This is months-old discussions, which has been proven.
Why are we having it now, then?
There is data from the... Well, you accuse me of saying it's disgusting that I said Afghan men on the whole really can't be trusted because they are more prone to sexual assaults than British people.
OK, so the Daily Mail did a deep dive.
Sky News tried to debunk it, and Sky News got it wrong. They had to make a correction on their website. I know what you're going to say.
The Daily Mail did a deep dive a few days ago, trawling through every single sexual assault committed, as I understand it, but you can check this yourselves, by people who were seeking asylum in this country over the last few years. I think they came out with the number 57. Now, let me be absolutely clear.
There's been 57 this year.
Hang on. One sexual assault on a woman or a girl is one sexual assault too many. Whoever, by the way, it's committed by. You might argue it's particularly egregious if it's someone who isn't actually a British citizen.
Okay.
And that's why we deport people where we can. But the number they said, they described that 57 number as vast. This is an issue that is very, very important, but is being deliberately used by some in the media to spread fear and hate, and I will not resile from saying that.
OK, with me now is the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, good morning, thanks for your company. This story's breaking in the last 10 minutes or so, front page of the Daily Telegraph. What do you make of it? And also, what do you make of the assumption, it's not an assumption actually, the fact that some nationalities, men, are more prone to sexual assaults than British people?
Well, that's just a fact. It's also a fact that a quarter of rape convictions last year were foreign nationals. They're only about 12% of the population. It's a fact that up to a third of sexual assault convictions last year were foreign nationals. It's a fact that up to 47% of those charged with sexual offences last year in London were foreign nationals. There's a huge discrepancy in the data here. And I think actually the British public have noticed this now. And what we're really seeing here from the watchdog new in her job is the dying cries of a political paradigm that no longer holds any sway. I think the British public are kind of above this now. They don't really consider these proclamations as in any way relevant, and they actually see them for what they are, which is an ideologue that's on a pretty penny from the taxpayer, using her position to try and push a political agenda. And I think the way the conversation is going is now fortunately recognising that we do face a problem here with certain nationalities posing a bigger threat to the British public than British nationals themselves, and indeed other nationalities that do come from, say, the Anglosphere. And I think actually where we are heading is we need a conversation about whether it's appropriate to introduce a red list of countries where we just simply don't issue visas blanket, and whether we actually need to start having a review of those from certain nationalities have maybe been given visas or refugee status in recent years as well. So I consider this recent announcement from this woman rather irrelevant, and I don't actually think many in the public will be listening to her either.
Yeah, I think she should actually. I mean, she was talking about migrants potentially being killed off the back of bigoted language, as some people would describe it. I mean, the only people being killed recently in the streets are Jewish people. So I'm yet to see of any migrants being killed in Britain.
Well, exactly. And you want to talk about scaremongering. What is it? That's really reaching for the sort of nuclear button. That one is playing that card. And her sort of defence of the Human Rights Act and the ECHR, based on examples from over 20 years ago. We've seen endless stories of how the ECHR and the Human Rights Act has been used to work against the interests of the British public and keep in this country people that have posed very serious harm to the country. And, we've got 19,000 foreign nationals who have committed serious offences in this country that we simply can't get rid of. And a large reason for that is because we are a member of the ECHR, and their rights seem at every turn to trump those of the British public.
Yeah. Rob, thank you very much. Rob Bates, the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Also down the line now is political commentator Benedict Spence. Benedict, very keen to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, good morning. The key crux of what this is, of course, talking about the British membership of the ECHR and what impact that will actually have, whether or not we were to leave it. And I think it's a very important thing that's getting missed so far in this debate, which is that we don't actually need to leave the ECHR to change how it is that we run our borders, how it is that we run our asylum system. The ECHR is a very irritating in some places, a treaty that we've signed up to. But we forget through all of this that Parliament is sovereign, and Parliament has the power ultimately to make decisions that can override the ECHR. We know this actually because plenty of other governments around Europe do the exact same thing. And I think that something we need to be very careful about here is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I'm going to say something here in defence of the ECHR, and that is that were we to rip it up, it would mean an absolute nightmare when it comes to the Northern Ireland Agreement and our agreements with the European Union, the Republic of Ireland, and indeed the United States, who is also a party to that. And we would actually have to seek permission for the United States, as a signatory of the Good Friday Agreement, to any change that would entail. And this is why I say it's a very sort of big headline thing to say the ECHR is the problem. But it isn't. It's the politicians, ultimately. And it's a similar thing, ultimately, I think, also to the debate around membership of the European Union. Very often you get MPs, ministers in the UK saying, I can't do anything about a particular problem because Europe ultimately has total control over this. And very often it wasn't true. It's used as a sort of an excuse by politicians in this country not to have to change something that they don't want to, even if the public actually do want something changed. What's been very clear, I think, about everything in the last year or so is that the public in this country are fed up with the asylum system. And ultimately, I think that a lot of politicians have been dodging the issue. We don't need to leave the ECHR to change our border. We simply need our politicians, our MPs, to do what the electorate tell them to do.
Yep, I hate the phrase, but it's a cliche, political will, and we've seen it in the United States. Joe Biden let in anything between 10 to 25 million illegals. President Trump comes into power, that goes down to zero pretty much overnight, so it just shows it can be done. Benedict, thank you very much. Benedict Spence, political commentator. Let's make it a hat-trick, shall we? One more. Down the line now is the former senior correspondent for the Sunday Times and political advisor, Andrew Gilligan. Andrew, thanks for your company. What do you make of Benedict's comments there about throwing the baby out with the bathwater? Because the Tories and Reform both pledging to scrap the ECHR, Labour reforming it. Have they all got it wrong?
I kind of agree with them, actually. We can, in fact, just ignore decisions of the European Court if we want to, and we have done in the past. They ruled during the Cameron government, for instance, that prisoners should be allowed to vote. We've always ignored that, and there's nothing the court can do about it. Lots of countries ignore decisions by the European Court of Human Rights. We just ignore fewer of them than France or Germany, and we should start ignoring it just like they do.
What's the point, do you think, as a sort of political strategist advisor, what is the point of this new chair of the Equalities Commission coming out with this interview? It's to the Press Association. What's she trying to do here?
She's trying to score some left-wing brownie points. She's got in trouble with elements of the progressive left for being unsound in their view on trans. She's expressed opposition to the orthodoxy that trans women are women, and discrimination against them is the same as discrimination against women. She's got gender-critical feminist views, which has annoyed a lot of people on the left. I think she's trying to recover some ground on the left with this interview. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's a quango, isn't it, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission?
Sure is, and the government appoint the chair. I think there needs to be a fundamental rethink of equalities law, for sure, of which this is part. The Equality Act 2010 has its uses, but equally what it means is we've started defining everyone by the so-called protected characteristics, that is race, gender, and so on. And that's and I think that's a mistake. I believe, like Martin Luther King, we should judge people by the content of their character rather than the colour of their skin or their sexuality or any of that.
Yeah, well, that would be nice. That's what they're doing in America now. They're scrapping DEI and they're saying, I don't care what skin colour you are, where you're from.
Well. I think it's coming here as well. And I think, like one of your contributors said, this has slightly got a kind of last gasp of the old liberal orthodoxy about it. This is changing. When you hear the Home Secretary saying what she said, this is changing.
Great. Andrew, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Andrew Gilligan, former senior correspondent for the Sunday Times and political advisor. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know your thoughts. I just think this woman who must have been on at least 100 grand a year for the past 20, 30 years, she's a career lawyer, she's middle class as they come, she has the luxury and the wealth to avoid the consequences of A, mass uncontrolled migration, and B, illegal migration. I'm sure she lives in a very nice gated house, gated community somewhere.
Oh, come on, Ben. I live in Notting Hill.
You live in one of the poshest parts of England.
Ben, why don't you come round for tea before you start making judgments about where I live?
I know where you live.
I live in Notting Hill, and on my street we have had asylum seekers, we have people from all around the world. By the way, you think you're so clever about how we're going to deal with this problem if Reform get in. How are you going... You tell us the whole time, don't you, that they throw away their documents, the people coming over. So where are you going to deport them to?
Back to France. You turn them back.
Yeah, the French don't want that.
I don't care about the French.
All right, let's have war with France then, shall we?
Do what President Trump did.
That is why Reform will not get in if they are properly scrutinised.
Do what President Trump did. He went to Colombia and said, Colombia, we have hundreds of your illegal migrants here, criminals. Take them back. Colombia said, no. as France would do. President Trump said, OK, you've got a 25% tariff and we're going to whack you with sanctions.
We're going to do that to the French.
What happened next week, Matthew? Colombia, the President of Colombia went to Trump and said, I'm sending you my own personal private jet. Please send me back.
You think our relationship with France is the same as the relationship between America and Colombia? Ben, come on, you've been in America for months
this country
now.
And the people that ran this country got some cojones about them and put the
Can't deport people if you don't know where to deport them to.
Yeah, it's still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs.
Jimmy Kimmel, apparently a very funny guy. I can't say I've ever seen him, really. Well, he's back and he'll be delivering Channel 4's Christmas message on, wait for it, fascism. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Look, you know, to do a pact with people, you've got to think I'm going to shake your hand and you're an honourable person. After the betrayal post the 2019 election, we do not believe them to be honourable.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. The Tories are now dropping their biggest hint ever, some of them anyway, that they're up for an electoral pact with Reform UK. Let me know what you think about that. That's coming up very shortly. But first, breaking tonight, US chat show host Jimmy Kimmel will deliver Channel 4's 2025 Christmas message. Brilliant. Of all the people who could have done it, yeah, it's this guy.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Yeah, so Kimmel, of course, was momentarily cancelled for saying that Charlie Kirk's killer was a MAGA supporter, Republican, Trump supporter. Absolute BS, of course. The presenter says it's been a, quote, great year from a fascism perspective. And tonight, Channel 4 has given us their reasoning for giving Kimmel the job. They say Donald Trump's return to the White House and wide-ranging impact on the world has been the story of 2025. And it would be hard to think of a better person to address it than Jimmy Kimmel, who's found himself on the front line of America's battle over free speech. Well, here is a message for Mr. Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you know, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
OK, let's ask the American on the panel. Jennifer, what's your take on Jimmy Kimmel, and why is Channel 4 getting him over here to deliver this anti-fascism Christmas message?
Well, the idea that Jimmy Kimmel is wheeled out as some sort of, you know, advocate of free speech is quite frankly ridiculous. He holds what would be considered like a mainstream liberal view, which is, yes, he defends the First Amendment, but he's also perfectly fine with cancelling people for wrongthink, like he did with, he was OK with Roseanne Barr being sacked. He was OK with Alex Jones. He was OK with, I mean, remember
vaccines?
Well, exactly, you beat me to it. The vaccines, he wanted certain people, you know, not allowed services or to lose, you know, their rights because they didn't get some experimental injections. So
sounds like he's the fascist here,
well, exactly. So it's just kind of funny that, and by the way, that temporary suspension that he had was the best thing that ever happened to his ratings, because he went from 1.6 million average for 2025 to, I think, a blip up to 6 million and then straight back down again. So, you know, maybe this will help him with his ratings. International.
UK ratings. I mean, Channel 4, I don't know what they're up to. They, I was watching, I can't be bothered to explain the story, but I was watching their coverage the other day, and I was just thinking, goodness me, what a load of...
Well, it's on brand, isn't it, to have Kimmel? It doesn't make a great deal of sense, perhaps, to the majority of people, but Channel 4 is on brand. They are left, far left. Jimmy Kimmel speaks their language. They have the same psychopathy related to the fixation with fascism, which they refuse to understand, even though they must be aware of what the definition of fascism is. You can take some of the constituent parts of fascism and sort of throw that mud towards people like Trump, but you can do it in the same way with Keir Starmer or anybody else you choose, because you need a one-party state, which nobody is advocating for whatsoever. You need ultra-authoritarian nationalism, which isn't going on, even if you don't like what Donald Trump is doing. Now, there are other things you could probably chuck at him. The suppression of dissent. All political leaders have the suppression of dissent. They don't like to be criticised because they have their view of the world. Also, a cult of personality. You could say that Donald Trump is a cult of personality, but Donald Trump is not Mussolini. He's nowhere near Mussolini. He's nowhere... And I haven't got a balcony, so I'm safe to say this. The only politician on planet Earth at the moment that's close to fascism is Putin, as far as I'm concerned. He is the closest thing to fascism. So Jimmy Kimmel, Channel 4, most people who think this is fascism have got it entirely wrong.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous. By the way, it's incredibly dangerous.
Also, you can't accuse Keir Starmer of having a cult.
Well, he hasn't got a personality. There might be some cult there.
Do you think anything remotely going on in America is fascist?
I think these words can sidetrack us. What I thought was interesting about the Jimmy Kimmel case or situation, and I don't know much about Jimmy Kimmel, I don't know much about Channel 4, if I'm honest, I don't watch it. But Trump's involvement, what he said around the time of that temporary cancellation, I thought was a little bit chilling. And also the suggestion that he made that networks would only give him bad press, maybe their licence should be taken away. That seems to me to be distinctly... You're smiling, Paul, because I think you know I've got you on this one. That seems to me to be distinctly anti-free speech.
But the same can be said of so many different people.
I know the left and the right throw allegations at each other about infringements on free speech and so forth, and there's a culture war going on about it. There's a lot of hypocrisy probably on both sides, but for the President of the United States, for the most powerful man in the biggest democracy in the world, effectively to suggest that networks might have to get sanctioned if he doesn't like the way they're reporting on him or commenting on him, that was the thing that I found most chilling about free speech this year.
Jennifer, was he not talking about balance from publicly funded broadcasters?
He was exercising his own free speech, and also, and you might be surprised, I agree with you in one regard, that Brendan Carr, who's the chairman of the FCC, BBC. I think he did overstep during that time because they are not supposed to police political speech. They're not supposed to censor. They're supposed to be there for obscenity, nudity, you know, that sort of thing. So he probably overspoke, but that wasn't Trump, you know. And
but Jennifer, the president exercising his free speech, of course he can say whatever he wants. But if you're president, it comes with certain responsibilities, and one of those responsibilities is not to be hypocritical, and one of those responsibilities is also surely in America of all countries to uphold the virtue of free speech rather than seeming almost to threaten networks.
Hey, I just said I'm a free speech absolutist. I think anything can be said, you know, as long as it doesn't, you know, it passes the Brandenburg test and this sort of thing. But, you know, let's go back and do every single president has been critical. Every president from every party has been critical about things that they don't like. So this was not Trump coming down on the networks. This was not Trump telling Brendan Carr, oh, you should go say this. And it probably did get a little bit
like it.
It got a little bit close, but he didn't do that. And this idea that there is balance of free speech between the left and the right is laughable. I mean, the only reason that we even know about the censorship that went on, you know, is thank God that Elon Musk bought Twitter and got Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger and some of those other guys to release the Twitter files. So we saw that, you know, the 2020 election, COVID-19, you know, were two of the most censored things, you know, in the last 10 years. And that was done at the behest of a Democratic president.
Even if you're right about that, and I haven't looked in any great detail into these allegations.
Years,
no, sure, but to the extent to which you would call that censorship and so forth, maybe you're right. I thought the pandemic was an incredibly difficult place because mis and disinformation can be very dangerous in a pandemic or indeed in a war. But just the flip side of any of that is that if you step onto X now, and I've hung around there, one of the relatively few people of my political leaning who's still on there.
Elon replied to you the other day.
Elon Musk did reply to me the other day. I said he destroyed Twitter. He said yes, because his point is he deliberately destroyed Twitter. It is now, more than ever, and it was by no means perfect before he took it over, a cesspit of hatred, of anger, of racism, of xenophobia. I think within the law of the land should operate, and I think there's plenty of stuff on X that I've seen that breaks the law of our land.
Of the UK land, not of the United States.
Can I just remind everybody, viewers, listeners, the panel here, why Jimmy Kimmel did come under such fire? It's because he said that Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk's alleged killer, was a MAGA supporter. He was one of them, he said. And then when it came to light, that wasn't true.
No, he was a Transiva furry.
This is why he came under such fire. When it came to light it wasn't true, he refused to adjust the record or even apologise.
Because it doesn't fit.
Not for what he said initially.
I'm sure this was your opinion, Matt, but and it gives the impression to me that you and I live in very separate bubbles, and I'm sure we do. But you said the most chilling things have happened this year with regards to attacks on free speech was Donald Trump trying to get Jimmy Kimmel cancelled. I would say the most chilling thing that happened against free speech this year was Charlie Kirk being assassinated whilst trying to hold a talk at a university in front of students that disagreed with him, and that Jimmy Kimmel was talking about that and quite deliberately lied about it.
Shall I tell you the difference between...
And I'm not saying that you deliberately were trying to downplay Kirk, by the way.
Sorry, just a quick difference there. The killing of Charlie Kirk was obviously an act of evil, but it was by someone who was not the President of the United States, right? So you're going to get very, very bad people in any society who are prepared to kill, which I utterly and totally condemn. The murder, the killing of Charlie Kirk, a terrible act of evil. In terms of the broader significance for society, the President of the United States appearing to lean on networks in one of the homes of free speech, i.e. the United States, which actually has it encoded in its constitution, I thought was profoundly chilling.
Yeah, there's also accusations Brendan Carr was, you know, he's a Trump ally, isn't he? With me now is documentary and filmmaker Armie Horowitz. Armie, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the show. I take it you've been listening to our conversation here. What do you make of our left-leaning Channel 4 network over here importing your Jimmy Kimmel to come and lecture us about fascism?
I mean, look, if your television wants to bring on crappy content, who am I to argue against it, right? I mean, look, these are two peas in a pod, right? I think this kind of tracks with the political message they're trying to get out. Jimmy Kimmel is somebody who is consistently in last place in his network and has been for years. He is beloved, oddly, by the glitterazzi of Hollywood. So therefore, they take him more seriously than he should be. And this is kind of like a problem. This is an issue that, in fact, I had a discussion this today. This idea that comedians can get a pass for saying politically outrageous things because they say, I'm a comedian, it's a joke. No, you are making a political comment. You are having political commentary, and we're going to take that seriously. The days of saying I'm a comedian, it's just a joke, yeah, those days are gone.
But is he not entitled to free speech, Army?
Everyone's entitled to free speech, absolutely.
So why
we
was he
should also
lambasted?
Say it again?
Why was he lambasted then and temporarily cancelled?
For what he said before? Well, there's consequence to free speech. I mean, free speech is not absolute in the sense that a private company could do what they want. If they want to suspend you or if they want to fire you, that's entirely up to them. Free speech does not cover private individuals and other private individuals. Free speech is about government getting involved in what you have to say. So, no, I've got no issue with that whatsoever.
OK. I just do... I mean, I don't like Jimmy Kimmel in the slightest. I think what he said about Charlie Kirk's killer and the fact he didn't correct it was wrong, and I think he probably should have been taken off air for that if he wasn't willing to correct it after the fact. However, I am, as Jennifer is, a free speech absolutist, and I think if free speech has consequences, like people say, you're going to get sacked from your job or whatever, it's not really free speech then, is it?
Oh, I couldn't disagree more. Of course it's free speech. In fact, it's the free speech of your employer to fire you if they want to. I mean, everybody's got to make business decisions or even moral decisions. Again, free speech, you can be an absolutist all you want, but you can't take away the free speech of an employer to fire you if they don't like what you have to say. I don't understand. I don't really understand why you can give free speech to one side but not the other.
Well, because the employer, I mean, it's not free speech. You're exercising your right to fire somebody. That's not speech, is it? You're making an action. You're doing something.
No, but that is how we define free speech. Free speech in the U.S. Is a very wide concept, and the idea that you have the ability to get rid of somebody because you don't like what they say is that's part of the idea of free speech, right?
I just think if you live in a society where you have to hinder your thoughts or you're diluting your thoughts and your speech because you fear of the consequences of those thoughts, wrong-think. It is wrong-think. It's thinking the wrong thing, holding the wrong opinions. It's not really free speech. We definitely don't have free speech here in the UK. You have an element of it, much more than we do, which I appreciate and actually I quite love it. But I think there's a distinction there, Army. Last word?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm certainly a believer. Matt, look, I was born here. I grew up here. Free speech is an important element of our society. But at the end of the day, though, an employer can absolutely make a decision and say, I don't like what you're saying. This is not good for my corporation. Therefore, we've got to move on.
Yeah, great stuff. Army, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up soon. That's Army Horowitz. gbnews.com/your say. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
Vice President JD Vance declares woke diversity schemes in America dead. But in Britain, Santa apparently is too white. More on that in just a tick on The Late Show Live.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice
first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, this is one of the more bizarre stories of maybe even the year. A museum has come under fire for saying that Father Christmas is too white and should stop putting children on the naughty list. Brighton and Hove, of course it is Brighton and Hove, my neck of the woods, absolute nutters down there. Brighton and Hove Museum urged parents in an online blog to challenge the colonial gaze by stopping Father Christmas rewarding children based on a Western binary of naughty or nice. Well, guess what? GB News can also do some challenging, because earlier today I took a look at Brighton and Hove Museum's website to see how they fare for their own diversity. Look at this guy here, white. If we scroll down a little bit there, these are the Board of Trustees, by the way, white. Another guy, as Hamza Yusuf would say in the Scottish Parliament, white. Another one there, white. Another one, white. This guy here was born in Tanzania. OK, that's one. Keep going, white. Hamza Yusuf, loving this, white. This is the Board of Trustees of Brighton Hove Museum, so they're happy to lecture everybody else on diversity, white. They want Father Christmas to be Father something else, white. Probably white with a bit of a tan, been down the sunbeds, white, white. And there we go. So, you know, Brighton Hove Museums, very diverse. Maybe don't be so hypocritical and take your own advice. My panel back with me now. Jennifer, what do you make of this? Father Christmas too white? What should he be then?
Well, first of all, I mean, Christmas, it's the birth of Jesus Christ, right? So then we have, you know,
Hallelujah.
Santa Claus, we have Santa Claus and everything that comes in is sort of fun for kids. And I don't know why anyone would take exception to what colour he is. Just, you know, leave it alone. He's a jolly fat man. Are we saying he's too fat now? You know, should he be skinnier?
Should he be on the Manjaro?
Exactly. Exactly.
Why not?
Try to mess with it. It's a cute tradition, you know, but mostly for children. So I think we just, you know, the whole fantasy of, and if there are any kids watching this late, I hope I'm not ruining the, you know, the tradition of Santa Claus. But like, he comes down the chimney, you know, he flies through the air with reindeer. So like, the whole thing is a bit farcical, but it's just fun for kids around.
Why do people at the likes of Brighton and Hove Museums, why do they do this kind of thing? Who sits down there and consciously says, right, I'm going to write a blog now about Father Christmas being too white and the naughty and nice list being a thing of the past and patriarchal? What is that?
It's a superiority complex. It's wanting to virtue signal and preach to an audience that's manufactured in their mind, by the way, very often, particularly with groups of white people like that. They've manufactured an audience they believe they're talking to. There isn't an audience who want to hear that message.
Well, Brighton. Brighton Hove.
Yes, but Brighton's full of white woke people, OK?
Yeah.
I don't live too far from there either. I don't know any brown, black, Asian, African people who have ever said to me, and why would they, by the way, it's not a conversation starter, is it, that Father Christmas is too white. And you can only get away with saying too white. You put any other colour after two and it's a hate crime. But it's totally acceptable to say he's too white. These people have manufactured an audience they're trying to appease. Nobody cares. Father Christmas is real. I know Jennifer was suggesting perhaps he's fictional in some way, but I know he's real. I know he's real. And he's not too white.
And I'm on
he may be too jolly. He's too jolly
and
sometimes.
I'm looking forward to seeing him because I'm on the nice list this year.
Yes.
Matthew, I'll get your thoughts in a second, but for now, political commentator Fahima Mohammed is down the line. Fahima, what's your take on this story? I mean, it's just as nutty as a fruitcake, isn't it? We can agree on that.
Well, let's start with perspective. It's not really cancelling Christmas.
Sorry, say that again. You're not cancelling Christmas. I mean, you pretty much are by trying to reinvent Father Christmas.
Not really. It's just a museum blog exploring how stories travel across cultures. You know, you're allowed to think it's clumsy, pretentious, or unnecessary, but in a free society, cultural institutions are allowed to explore ideas without every experiment being treated as an existential threat. And let's just know and understand that it's also worth grounding that this, in history, Santa is based on St. Nicholas, a 4th century Christian bishop from Myra, a modern-day Turkey. That's Eastern Mediterranean, not Northern Europe. The red suit, the white beard figure people think of today is a much later commercialized reinvention. So even Santa himself is a product of cultural blending and adaptation, not a fixed racially owned tradition. That's always been the story. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's how I see it. The real issue isn't here is Santa, it's how quickly we turn mild academic reinterpretation into culture wars identity and headline. It's not really anything that we need to worry about. I think it's just generally a talk about, you know, what is real faith and culture in Britain. That we need to be honest about, and the meaning of it has been lost. It's not because of the museums or the academic blogs. It's Christianity was meant to be, you know, it wasn't meant to be just a seasonal aesthetic or retail event. It's a moral framework. It's a way of living. And I think that the core teachings isn't about tinsel or slogans. It's about, you know, humility, charity, forgiveness, you know, taking care of the poor and the sick and, you know, being sort of like, you know, not using this as a scapegoat. These principles are meant to be practiced daily, not performed once a year. So we need to talk more about Christianity.
Fahima, I agree with you. That's the magic of Christmas spear and cheer it. Spirit and cheer. We are united in opinion for once, for the first time in 2025. Apart from the fact that Father Christmas is a white man, and he's coming down my chimney in a few days with lots of presents. Fahima, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
See you soon. gbnews.com/your say. Matthew, quick word on this story.
I thought Fahima spoke very well. Personally, I think we should leave Father Christmas alone. He's also coming down my chimney.
Don't know about that.
Not according to your say, he's not.
You're now taking the battle to my children.
Oh, so I thought you were saying for you. Oh, no, your kids.
Well, it's not coming from me, Ben.
Oh, right.
Right. No, so leave Father Christmas alone. He's definitely real. Obviously, he's very real. But I think that whoever wrote this blog at Brighton and Hove Museum, if that's what it's called, will be absolutely delighted. Would have made their Christmas that they've triggered you, Ben.
That is true.
They haven't.
Oh yes, well they'll be even more delighted that you picked it out from 2 years ago, Ben. That's true.
A spokesman for Brighton Hove Museum said people are free to agree or disagree with the blog. Obviously, they said as museum educators, our role is not to tell people what is right or wrong, but to help audiences look at history and culture from more than one point of view and to create opportunities for discussion and debate. The piece about Father Christmas was intended to prompt reflection rather than prescribe how anyone should celebrate Christmas. It looks at how familiar stories are shaped and how they might be explored when we include viewpoints beyond a white Western perspective.
Can I just say something in response to that? I will give £500 to any charity if the same council come out and say that Eid is too brown.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah, 100%. And there's a reason...
Jesus wasn't white, by the way, you do know that.
No, I'm aware.
Right. On the Late Show Live tonight.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever.
Of course we've had free speech in this country. We've enjoyed it for a long, long time. Well, Google doesn't agree because they've just accused Britain of threatening to stifle the very concept of free speech. More on that in just a second on The Late Show Live.
From the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Normally here we'd go through the first of tomorrow's papers, but I think it's been done quite a lot on the channel tonight. I wanted to bring you a story that's breaking from America about a poor grandmother, 75-year-old in Seattle. She was standing on the pavement, not the sidewalk, on the pavement, and a repeat offender, a guy who's notorious for prowling this street in Seattle. He's been arrested and released so many times, been charged for various offences so many times, just like the guy in North Carolina who knifed the poor Ukrainian girl to death, a repeat offender let loose again. He whacks her around the head with a piece of wood. She's now blind. Let's remind ourselves of the story breaking tonight. Let's take a look.
It's just before noon on December 5th outside the King County Courthouse in Seattle. That's 75-year-old Jeanette Markin standing on the corner, and police say this is Fale Pea walking up with a stick in his hand when out of nowhere he attacks her. Jeanette is knocked to the ground. Bystanders take a picture of the suspect, then rush to help Jeanette. As paramedics race her to the hospital, it becomes obvious police know Fale Pea well.
Do you have the suspect's ID?
Yeah, suspect's ID. He's being searched right now. Yeah. You know him?
Oh, he's notorious for random assaults on 3rd Street.
How's your mother doing?
Right now, she's out of the second surgery.
After several surgeries, she's been told she won't recover sight in her eye and may need even more reconstructive surgeries.
Wow, that poor woman. Her name is Jeanette Markin. The story's breaking tonight, but it happened a few weeks ago. Matthew, you were saying, what did you say during the break about thank God you're not in America? You think it's safer here in Britain than America?
Much safer here, but I mean that's a terrible story, and sadly that story could happen here. Now I was referencing guns. I think there was a bit of stuff online after that horrific massacre in Bondi Beach from Americans saying, "Oh,
at least we've got guns."
At least we've got well. in 2023, there are, I think, 25 gun homicides in Australia, and there were well over 17,000 gun homicides in America. So I'd rather live in Australia than America.
Jennifer?
Yeah, no, I think I was definitely one of those Americans, not online, but I think on this show here, where Americans were, even the Democrats are not going to ever give up the Second Amendment. You know, it's the right to protect ourselves against enemies, foreign or domestic, and
it's different from state to state,
but
isn't
nobody. True, the laws are different, but also nobody ever talks about like the amount of crimes that are stopped by people who are legally carrying guns. And
do we know?
No, we don't actually.
Right,
we
that's
don't.
probably why we don't talk about it.
Well, okay, but you know what I mean. And if somebody had been armed there on that beach, in Bondi Beach, the average person, if this was in Texas or something, he would have not been able to kill as many people. The father and son would not have been able to kill as many people.
The stats are clear. There were 25 gun homicides in Australia.
What's the demographic? Is it black on black? I could probably guess it's black on black crime and people...
Oh, well, that's OK then, as if that's true.
Is it okay? I mean, it's not okay, obviously. I mean, Black Lives Matter, apparently, but...
do they matter, Black Lives?
Something needs to be done about it.
Do Black Lives matter as much as white lives?
Well, we've been told for the past 5 years that...
So you'd agree with that? So there are 17,000 plus gun homicides in America in 2023. If I was choosing... I love America for lots of reasons. I've travelled there many times. If I were choosing a place for my family to live, based on safety, I'd go to Australia or I'd stay here rather than living in America.
But you don't worry about, like, the government encroaching on your freedoms? I mean, look at the lockdown that Australia had compared to state by state in America.
That sounded pretty tough, yeah.
And a lot of that
let's hope we're not going to get another pandemic anytime soon.
If we do get another pandemic, I hope people have learnt their lesson. Paul, your take, the repeat offenders is a problem in America, and probably here as well on a smaller scale. We saw on the train in North Carolina, the poor Ukrainian girl, what's her name, sorry, Jennifer? Irina, stabbed from behind after a night. The guy who killed her was a repeat offender, just not put in prison, allowed to perpetually be released from minor charges or whatever else, assaults, robberies.
Well, he's clearly mentally ill, as was the guy on the train who stabbed the Ukrainian girl. I would dispose of them from humanity with immediate effect.
I would as well. Capital punishment.
And I say that as someone who finds the conversation around capital punishment very difficult, because I don't want the state to sentence anyone to death, particularly when the state's headed by Keir Starmer or someone of that nature. But at the same time...
But kill them anyway, is your view, particularly if they've mental health issues?
No. Say that again, sorry, Matthew?
But kill them anyway, is your view, despite having concerns you have about...
So here's
and particularly if they have mental health issues?
All I would say, if that was your nan, you'd want him dead.
You can't speak for me. I just did. No, I don't. Well, you make yourself look ridiculous if you speak for other people. I'll speak for myself. I wouldn't want him dead. I want my grandmother to be safe, but I wouldn't want someone to be dead because I don't know. I don't believe in the death penalty.
What about Axel Rudapakana?
Don't believe in the death penalty.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll discuss this more because I want to do a film next year about the death penalty. There's growing calls in the UK for it from the likes of Rupert Lowe and so on. More coming up in the next hour, including this.
Publish a further more than 40... I'm going to start again. Sorry, do not ever air me saying the F word.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy start to the new week as we head up towards Christmas, but it will be a lot more settled as well. It will stay mild, but as we head up towards the big day, things will start to cool down a little bit. But for the rest of today, at least, we still have some rain across northern parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and that will slowly start to move its way off towards the north as we head towards the afternoon. Further south, there's plenty of cloud around. There is quite a few breaks, so there will be some sunnier spells and probably some brightness just trying to filter its way through where we do get any gaps. But temperatures, again, still on the mild side, probably highs of around 10 or 11 Celsius, possibly even a 12 in the very far southeast. Now, as we go through the overnight period, that cloud is going to stick around. We could even see it thick enough in a few places just to see some hill fog and possibly some outbreaks of some light rain and drizzle, mostly across the southwest and across Wales here, but a few more breaks across Northern Ireland and again across Scotland, where the Grampians do have that thickest clouds. That's where we'll see see some more hill fog and some light rain and drizzle as well. But we do have some clearer spells up towards the north here as well. So it will start to turn a little bit cooler where we do get those breaks overnight period. But further south, that cloud will start to fill in once again, and we're not having too many in the way of some clearer spells down here. Still some odd light rain and drizzle and maybe a possible few showers across the southwest for the early part of Tuesday morning. But mostly a frost-free night to come. Most temperatures around sort of mid-single figures, lows of around 2 or 3 up towards Scotland where you do see a few more of those breaks. Tuesday is going to be another cloudy day, unfortunately. Not too many breaks here, maybe just a couple across the north and across Scotland, but much more in the way of some cloud across the south, and those showers just continuing across that southwestern coast as well. But it will be a much cooler day on Tuesday. We are losing that heat a little bit, so temperatures highs of around 8 or 9 degrees, maybe just around the seasonal average.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
as I say, now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, very good morning. I'm Ben Leo on The Late Show Live tonight.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever.
Well, apparently Google doesn't agree, because they've just accused Britain, and particularly the Labour government, of threatening to stifle free speech. Plus...
Look, to do a pact with people, you've got to think I'm going to shake your hand and you're an honourable person. After the betrayal post the 2019 election, we do not believe them to be honourable.
Well, he did a pact with the Tories in 2019, didn't he? Will they do one in 2029? Strong words there from Nigel Farage, but it turns out the Conservatives may have other ideas. Also tonight...
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
You heard the Vice President there, JD Vance. He's declared woke diversity schemes are dead under President Trump. And even pop star and rapper Nicki Minaj has weighed in.
I don't need someone with blonde hair and blue eyes to downplay their beauty because I know my beauty.
And I'm sure we've all had a day like this, and if I haven't yet, I'm sure I will do soon. Take a look.
Publish a further more than 40... Oh, I'm going to start again. Sorry, do not ever air me saying the F word.
Good morning. Thank you for your company on The Late Show Live. Google is accusing Britain of threatening free speech. The tech giant has hit back at plans by Ofcom to stop posts going viral if they include content judged to be, quote, potentially illegal. Now, Google warns the proposals would force tech firms to detect and suppress lawful speech, undermining users' rights to free expression. The warning also follows Vice President JD Vance's claim that the UK is following a dark path on free speech. With me now is my panel tonight, the journalist and broadcaster Matthew Stadlen, US political commentator Jennifer Ewing, the GB News contributor and superstar Paul Cox, and the External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. It's a Late Show Live Christmas party.
It is.
Welcome along. Connie, I'll start with you, as you're from the Free Speech Union. Google, of all companies, my memory of Google, especially after the past couple of years, during COVID, the pandemic, YouTube particularly, who they own, was that they are very left of centre, that they're liberals based in San Francisco. They were censoring all sorts of people, but now even they're coming out and slamming the government for the Online Safety Act.
Yes, so no one can claim that there is sort of a political, ideological motive behind this recent attack on the government for cracking down on free speech, and no one can be surprised because long before the long before the Online Safety Act came into power, the Free Speech Union and other free speech campaigners were warning for a very long time about the effects that it would have. And obviously lots of people say, well, what, you don't want to protect children from graphic online content?
Yeah.
But as soon as it came into power, we saw legal content being censored. Katie Lamb's speech about grooming gangs in Parliament, censored. A story about Richard and the Lionheart, censored. An arrest in Leeds, the video of it, censored. And ironically, one of the most recent ones, Spiked Online's documentary called Think Before You Post about free speech, was censored by the Online Safety Act. So it's another awful blow for the government. Of course, the bill was drafted under the previous government. There were issues with it then. But the continuous sort of, as Keir Starmer says, we've always had free speech in this country. We'll protect it for as long as we can. Keir Starmer continues to be proved wrong and JD Vance continues to be proved right. The free speech is obviously under threat. And like you said, it's Google this time. It's not Elon Musk. It's not right-wingers who want to spread hate speech, as they say. It's Google. It's the search engine giant who is saying that the Ofcom, the way that they are enforcing the Online Safety Act, is going to have a detrimental effect on what people can and can't see online.
Jennifer Ewing, the Telegraph reported this week that US officials were left stunned that apparently Liz Kendall, the technology secretary, I think you just mentioned it there, was potentially mooting bringing the likes of ChatGPT under the Online Safety Act. I mean, these people aren't serious, are they?
No, they're not, but there's going to be very serious repercussions. We've already seen them. The $30 billion tech deal that the UK and the United States had signed a few months ago, like, the US is putting a line through that.
Scrapped.
It's gone.
Because of the Online Safety Act?
Because of the Online Safety Act, because they want to say, what are you doing? Because there's real-world consequences for... I mean, look at the shifty language, flimsy language in this. I think you just said potentially illegal, possibly illegal. So it's all this very loose language that will have real-world repercussions. And no, I mean, JD Vance has been talking about this. The president's been talking about this. Your group does such good work around this. And it is a very big deal. And we don't want the United States and the United Kingdom diverging any further over this.
We should just say, Ben, that the big part of this story is that Ofcom is now speaking about potentially illegal things that you just said, which wasn't something that phrase was not used in the Act. And so Google's saying this doesn't seem like something that was intended by Parliament.
Right.
So what does potentially illegal mean? The social media sites are already being urged to act with extreme caution, because if they allow illegal content to be on their platforms, they could be fined up to £18 million or 10% of their annual revenue, whichever is larger. So they have a great incentive to make sure they are cracking down, so they're acting overzealously, and now this potentially illegal. What does that even mean?
It's like a non-crime hate incident, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's
Precisely,
just slippery slope, you know, whoever decides, you know, to suit their narrative.
Matthew, what's your thoughts on this?
I think it's a really tricky area, but I'm inclined very roughly to agree with what you've said so far, Connie, actually, because the idea of something being potentially illegal seems to me to be unsatisfactory. Now, do we need words on the internet to be policed where they break the law? Yes, we do, because that's what you've got to have in a democracy. In a democracy where there is the rule of law, the law has to be upheld. So, for example, you are not allowed to incite violence. And my view would probably be, and this is notwithstanding the fact that, say, X has become a far more toxic place, in my view, in my experience, since Elon Musk took over. But my position would be that it is for law enforcement in this country to intervene where it thinks the law has been broken, and it gets into very difficult territory if Ofcom is jumping in and talking, as you say, in terms of potentially illegal speech. But just to give you an example where viewers might be concerned, if a gang leader on the European mainland is uploading videos trying to encourage people to cross the channel into this country, that is clearly potentially illegal. Do we want to have to wait until that's already gone viral for British police or police on the continent to intervene or not? I'm just putting to you an example that might be counterintuitive to some people watching the show.
I mean, I don't think that should be illegal at all. I think, you know, a video, that's not illegal at all. And in fact, seeing those videos is very helpful. We should allow those videos to be seen so that the police can then deal with those people. If we're suppressing that content, we can't see what's going on. Of course, yes, it might encourage crossings, and some people may not want that.
That's what it's designed to do.
Yes, of course, but we should have, you know, our border control is completely different to what should and shouldn't be seen online.
It's all part of free speech, though, and where you draw the line. My view is the law is the law, and it's for law enforcement to enforce the law.
Well, I don't like this. Any conversation, any idea that we should be policing the internet. I'm a child of maybe the first generation of kids to use the internet. I know it was around sort of early 90s, late 80s, but really, when it was rolled out retail, it was the Wild West, and it was great. It was so much fun. Yes, there was some awful stuff. Yes, people do awful stuff now on the internet. They say terrible things. I don't like the idea at all, intuitively, of policing the internet.
No, political parties of all shapes and sizes want to control speech because they want the constituent members of the UK or wherever they are to follow in line with them. That's what's happened with Twitter now. Is it's become the true market square, and so much so that Keir Starmer and people on the left do not like hearing people talk the way that they do. The idea, by the way, that the first time anyone would hear about a gang member and what they're up to is via X, really is terrifying. We've got secret services, we've got police forces, we've got UK border force. I'm assuming Keir Starmer is entirely aware of this. I mean, he's very busy smashing the gangs, Matthew. He should be understanding all of this.
Suggesting that people who want to come to this country aren't tempted by content they see online?
I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm saying that we ought to see it. The whole point of free speech, there's been a whole bunch of things that I see that I don't like on Twitter. It could be left-wing comedians talking absolute nonsense about trans women and showing a really warped version of misogyny that they're totally unaware of. We ought to see absolutely everything.
Just to quickly come back on that. First of all, you say that X is now the true town square. It's not. Loads of people, I would suggest the vast majority of people with my sort of left-leaning views, and by the way, some people see me as far left. I can tell you I've had a lot of stick from the far or hard left in my time, almost as much as I have from the right. They probably see me as a centrist dad and therefore a disastrous character. It isn't the true town square, point one, but point two... And
Why?
Because so many people who are actually part of the town square in real life aren't there because they find it so toxic.
That's because they've chosen to leave to Blue Sky.
They're on Blue Sky.
It's their choice to do so, but it's not the true town square because it doesn't reflect the proper spectrum of opinion. But the most important...
No, these are people that ran away from the opinion.
They may have run away, but it's not the town square because it doesn't...
That's the whole point of the town square, like Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park.
Yeah, but
that's the whole point. If you don't...
You could get everyone there. listen, it's not representative. Very, very quickly. The reason why I think we've got this discussion that bubbles up from time to time about free speech being under threat in this country is mainly because of this clash now with the laws of the land, which have been around for a very long time in some cases, and the fact that millions and millions of people have access to social media. And if you say something on social media that breaks the law, let's say I try to incite someone to cause violence against you or vice versa, that is just as illegal just because it's on Twitter or X or Instagram or wherever, as it would be if it was said in another context. And that's why we're having a real struggle about how to get the balance right.
Candice Holdsworth is down the line, political commentator. Candice, good morning. Thank you for your company on The Late Show Live. What's your take on this? I think it's all rather indicative of the way this Labour government is going, to be honest, that you've got Google, who, as I said to Connie, they are certainly not centrist, certainly not right-wing. They are one of the most liberal companies going, and yet they're now coming for the Labour government for censorship.
Yeah, absolutely. I know people who work at Google, and they actually take a very ethical approach to what they do. I don't think you could see them as cavalier in any way. Look, I just think, have the Labour government, and I'm probably answering my own question here, have they learned nothing from 2020 and the absolute disaster of trying to moderate misinformation? I mean, you had things that were true, like the lab leak hypothesis, for instance, or the Hunter Biden laptop story, labeled as misinformation and stopped from going viral and stopped from people sharing it. Meanwhile, it was 100% true. And they said that in times of crisis, they want to be able to clearly say what is correct and what isn't, but we don't always know. And we learn that by discussing it and by having free discourse, because there are always powerful interests who will try and shut down the truth. And I clearly remember in 2020, people trying to share stories about the lab leak hypothesis and it being labeled on Facebook as misinformation. Fast forward 5 years later, and most intelligence agencies think it is the most likely explanation for how COVID spread all around the world. So I think they've learned nothing from this. Also, what you were saying earlier about ChatGPT, that they might try and roll it out with ChatGPT, they clearly know nothing about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one of the most robust AI tools. I mean, they've really tried really hard to make sure that it challenges the user. It's got a lot of safeguards already built into it to make sure it doesn't become too sycophantic and lead people down rabbit holes. It's actually one of the best rated ones. So I think there's a lot of ignorance as well about how this technology works. And I find it so suffocating. They are creating such a suffocating environment. You know, I'm similar to you. I think we're a similar age. And I also grew up just being able to use the internet freely. And I think how much it aided me and benefited me. And right now, I'm just feeling like we're being totally infantilized.
Well, I mean, very basic technology. The Online Safety Act, they were parading as being a solution to porn. It's like, you guys have never heard of VPNs. Kids are using VPNs. The Online Safety Act does nothing to stop kids accessing porn. And again, the suggestion now that they'll put ChatGPT under the Online Safety Act, it's just for the birds, just bonkers. I mean, what are you talking about? Candice, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Merry Christmas to you. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on that. Ofcom has rejected claims from Google, insisting there was nothing in our proposals that would require sites and apps to take down legal content. They added, we recognise that some content which is legal and may have been engaging to users may also not be recommended to users as a result of this measure. I don't know what that means. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
JD Vance there, the American Vice President, declaring woke diversity schemes are dead under this Trump administration. Lots more of that to come after the break, including as well a really, by the way, there's no break in the second hour, of course, as I've been told in my ear, a speech from JD Vance on Christianity, which was very pertinent to the way I believe society is going in the West. Check it out in just a sec. For now, though, there seems to be rumours swirling of yet another reform pact with the Conservative Party, because the Deputy Chairman of the Tories, Matt Vickers, has suggested a pact between the two parties could be on the cards in 2029. Asked about the proposition, he told reporters to, quote, come back and ask about a pact ahead of the next general election, should the party's poll ratings fail to improve. Well, tonight it's also being reported by The Telegraph that Conservative MPs are privately expecting either an unofficial arrangement before Election Day or a joint ticket as the Tories continue to struggle in the polls? My panel are back with me now. Paul Cox, why would Reform UK, Nigel Farage and friends do a deal with the Tories when the last time they did, in 2019, the Brexit Party, Boris Johnson, they were betrayed?
Well, I think Nigel Farage is on record saying that you do a pact as a gentleman's agreement. You want to shake somebody's hand expecting them to honour that agreement, and he doesn't trust them. The reason that they would, and by the way, we're not defining what a pact is here in this story. A pact could just be not to run in certain constituencies so that you end up with it favouring both Conservatives and Tories, and that's not a pact that brings the two parties together.
I think it would be standing down.
So,
not splitting
what would be the benefits? The question, the benefit is not immediately apparent to me. I think that Nigel Farage's version of the Reform Party, as it is his party, is that it's to overtake and eradicate the Conservative Party, and I'm sure that's what he wants to do.
Jennifer, do you not think, though, that as we get closer to election day, Nigel Farage, he says he wants to be PM now, the polls say he'll be PM, do you not think maybe he'll, I don't know, just do anything he can to secure power, to get it over the line, that he may consider doing a deal with the Tories, standing down maybe, not to split the vote in certain constituencies? I don't know, just putting it out there.
I suppose he could, but I don't know why he would. And the reason is there are so many Reform members that would be furious if they did that. There are so many people who are Conservative voters who basically voted Reform last time around knowing they'd end up with a Labour government. And they were OK with that because they said we cannot continue to reward this Conservative government who saw, you know, huge waves of illegal immigration, this net zero nonsense, like all of this, I mean, the free speech stuff, this Online Safety Act that we were just talking about, all of this stuff under a Conservative government. Reform's members are not going to be OK with the deal being made.
I hear you. What I'd say to that, though, Jennifer, is, I mean, let's talk about the Online Safety Act, the baby of Nadine Dorries, who was welcomed into Reform. So many other Tory MPs now defecting to Reform, Tory members defecting to Reform. I don't think Reform members, on the whole, like that.
Well, I guess it depends on who it is, and, you know, at this point, they're not going to say no to, you know, new members or new votes, right? I mean, they had the porn lady the other day that they said they'd happily accept.
Bonnie Blue, yeah.
Bonnie Blue, right? A vote is a vote. But I think it has to be very, very careful that these non-conservative ideas from the so-called Conservative Party sneak in through the back door of Reform and change it. And the next thing you know, you're going back to, oh, maybe we do a little net zero. Maybe we do control free speech. Maybe we do have these open borders again. That was all done under Conservative government.
Matthew, I'll come to you just a tick. James Hill is down the line, the Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator. James, good morning. Thanks for your company. Merry Christmas to you. What do you make of this? It seems a story that seems to be doing the rounds every 6 months or so. Why would Farage do it?
Well, it's not immediately obvious to me why he would, Ben, and this has been caused here in the UK by some of the comments made by the Deputy Chairman, in which he said, come back to me in 3 or 4 years' time at the election. And I think that's about right. I mean, to be honest, I can't see a reason why he'd do it before May. His whole shtick is about being different from the Conservatives, and I think you were absolutely right there, your comments about lots of Reform members being a bit unhappy about these Tories. I think it's too soon to tell. I think if we got right up to the election, and it was a bit like 2019, when everyone thought, oh, God, are we going to give Jeremy Corbyn, or in this case, Keir Starmer, another term, I think we might see some kind of agreement or something. But until we get those to local elections, till we get through to May, and we know whether the Kevin Baylock will carry on leading the party, whether a critical mass of the Conservatives will come across, I can't see anything. But I think it'll be more a case of subjugation rather than actual alliance, is my kind of view on how Nigel Farage's team views a potential deal with the Tories.
How pivotal are the local elections in May? Is it the litmus test for 29?
I think it's a big moment, and it depends on sort of how the Conservatives shake out, whether there's any kind of pattern to their survival or success. And I think it's going to be a moment when suddenly a lot of people in Westminster who have been trying to dismiss Reform and saying, well, we've got a long way to go, I think they'll wake up, because suddenly you'll see potentially hundreds of those Labour voting seats, Tory voting seats, all going Reform. So I think this year in Wales and Scotland, when Reform look like they're going to overtake the Conservatives there, suddenly the narrative becomes they're bigger in members, they're bigger in Wales, they're bigger in Scotland, they could be bigger in donations. That might encourage some of that critical mass of the Tory party or the Tory infrastructure or ecosystem to come across to reform.
Yeah, and maybe a Tory pact with reform would depend on what the Greens and Labour are doing, because Polanski's polling well, Labour aren't polling so well, so maybe Farage would be more inclined to team up with the Tories or stand down in certain places if they knew that was what they were facing.
I mean, it's all about projection and momentum currently, Ben, which is really, it's about showing who's the biggest sort of beast on the Tory right, as it were. At the moment, Farage is the one who's leading. He sees no need for any kind of deal. As you say, if there is some kind of sort of left coalition versus right coalition, progressives versus anti-progressive, that could be on the cards. Right now, it's too soon to tell. And I think all the Tory MPs are waiting to see what happens in May and whether Keir Starmer can cling on as Labour leader.
Great stuff. James, thank you very much. Appreciate it. James Hill, Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator. Joining me down the line is Ingrid Sheard, the Reform UK Deputy Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Ingrid, great to see you. Merry Christmas. Hope you're well. Do you fancy doing a deal with the Tories?
No, not for me, thanks.
Why not? It's Christmas.
Why not? The question is, why would we? I mean, let's be serious. If you have a look at the moment, we've got paid-up membership of 268,000 members. That compared to, if you go to Labour, under 250,000. If you have a look at the Tories, the latest figures, to be fair, the latest I could find was July 2025, but they're sitting at 123,000. So in all reality, Nigel is concentrating on growing Reform UK and heading towards the next general election, which I have no doubt we're going to win.
Well, the Greens, I think, have the second highest party membership now under Zach Polanski. I mean, you don't think that they'll come second in a general election, do you, based on that sort of working out? What I'm saying is membership numbers don't equal seats.
No, that's very true. I mean, but if you have a look, we've actually taken a lot of the Conservative voters this year in 2025. So if you have a look back to May 2025, we took 10 local authorities. We also took 2 mayoralties, one of which was Dame Andrea Jenkins, which, bless her heart, she elected me to be her deputy mayor. And we're making great strides forward, talking to local people. And the voices are saying that Reform UK is what they want out there. So, no, I don't actually see that diluting us with a pact with the Conservatives would be actually something that we would be interested in doing.
All right, one last question for you, Ingrid, which may get you stirring over your Christmas pud. What could topple Reform's momentum between now and the election? You're flying high in the polls, it's great. Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister, apparently. What's the biggest challenge? What's the biggest threat you face to scuppering that?
The biggest challenge we face is ensuring that, we keep the right message going out there, we keep momentum going. We're sailing high at the moment. For me, we need to be transparent, keep information going out there and keep everybody on side. I think we're hard-hitting. I think that going forward, provided we are transparent and we let everybody know precisely what it is we're doing, we don't do any U-turns, which are currently happening. I think open honesty and keeping down at ground level, that's what we need to do. No big egos, nothing driving forward that way, just working together, driving forward for the public.
Ingrid Sheard, thank you very much. Reform UK's Deputy Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Again, Merry Christmas to you. Let's get the take now of Director of Strategy at Touchpoint Strategy, Joseph Robertson. Joseph, good morning. What's your take on all this?
Morning, Ben. Good to see you. I mean, look, I'm going to re-echo what other people have been saying with this. I think the reality is, if you want to talk about the Conservative track record over the last 14 years, I don't see any indicator as to why the British public should trust them on any issue. I know it's become a trope over time, but the reality is they were to the left of Tony Blair on pretty much every issue, all the way through to immigration, net zero, taxes, you name it. Why the heck Reform would want to bring them into the fold in full is beyond my comprehension. That's not to say there aren't good members of the Tory party still, but I don't see how Nigel would ever trust them again after what happened in 2019.
Yeah, indeed. Colin on gbnews.com/your say, Joseph, has said Reform has to be very careful as they've sleepwalked into local elections being cancelled and dealing with a radical left dictatorship who align with the Libs, the Greens and the SNP. What is the reality? What is the prospect of a, maybe not at the local elections, but at the general election in 29, of a Labour, Green, maybe Lib Dem coalition to do anything just to keep Nigel Farage out? Farage man bad.
Well, to go back to the original topic, I mean, we saw in that Welsh by-election very recently collaboration between, the left and the Tories to keep reform out. So I don't think that there's necessarily any difference between that Labour coalition and what we're talking about with the Tory party. I mean, the reality is that every major change that Tony Blair undertook in terms of constitutional reform, the Tories kept in place and even further in many cases. So I think what reform really has is a fight against three parties, not just one or two. And I think, you could even throw the Lib Dems into the mix here and say four. Really, it's reform against the rest in many ways. And I think there will be many dirty tricks between now and the general election. The only way to do that is to get even bigger and even better. If Nigel wants to win, I think he has to fully differentiate himself from the Uniparty and claim radical change, constitutional change that we haven't seen for 30 years.
Yeah, well said, Joseph. Thank you very much. Director of Strategy at Touchpoint Strategy, Joseph Robertson. Matthew Stadlen, is the biggest threat to reform not Labour cancelling elections?
One of the funniest things about reform is that they keep telling us that we should never trust a Tory. I think they are up to 22 or 23 former Tory MPs.
I agree with you.
I mean, it is just absolutely farcical. They must think that the British people are deeply and profoundly stupid.
I don't think they think people are stupid, but I agree that I've heard from many reform voters who question these former Tory, not just MPs, members who one day are slagging off the Tory party, then coming to reform, and then within a week of joining, slagging off Nigel Farage and saying Rupert Lowe should be leader. That kind of shenanigans, that nonsense, the infighting. Paul?
Yeah, look, it's the same pool, isn't it? The voters that are going to vote for reform are much likely to have voted for Conservative previously. Also, I should say, Matthew, as you're fully aware, the Red Wall are voting for reform because the Red Wall is full of working class people that Labour once represented and no longer does.
So you say they're voting for them. Are you talking about polling?
I'm saying that a lot of Red Wall voters will move to reform, yes.
You're asserting that?
I am asserting it, Matthew, yes, that's what I'm saying.
I just want to be clear. You're saying they are voting, but you're saying they will, isn't your view?
But it's clear by every poll for the past 12 months that reform have been leading, and that's the case.
The councillor there was talking about reform riding high, and look, there's absolutely no doubt that the fact that a party with 5 MPs is leading 1.5 years or whatever it is into a new government that hadn't itself been in power for 14 years, is leading in the polls consistently, is an extraordinary achievement of Nigel Farage. Now, I think what he stands for is often horrendous, but politically he's very persuasive. But they're not riding that high. They're struggling to break free from the 29%, late 20s, early 30s. And I think the biggest threat to reform in 2029 is that people will vote very, very tactically in order to avoid a Nigel Farage premiership.
I agree, Matthew.
What is extraordinary, though, is after 14 years of Conservative government, Keir Starmer's Labour government has managed to tank themselves into the ground so quickly. It is incredible to me. A much bigger story.
Is it that surprising, though? Is it that surprising?
Well, I mean,
there wasn't a wave of enthusiasm when they came in. What did they get? 35% of the vote.
Lower than Corbyn.
Even after 14 years. Yeah, Starmer got fewer votes as the leader of the Labour Party. Labour under Starmer got fewer votes than Corbyn had. And after 14 years of Tories in power, the best Labour could do was 35% of the vote.
Well, Labour
so it suggests to me that there wasn't a massive enthusiasm for their and they had to show, everyone knew this, or those who were paying attention, within a couple of years, and this happened much more quickly, that they could really make lives better for people. And actually, turning that around is going to take time.
No.
In the world in which we live,
I can't have that. You can turn it around just like that.
How?
Labour and Tories are two piles of the same dog mess. Two piles of the same dog mess.
Come on.
It is conventional politics. It's been in place for over 100 years and is now dead. The void that's been created has, first of all, been filled by reform and by the Green Party. That is the future of UK politics. Labour's dead, Tories are dead. You can turn it just like that. I mean, with regards to illegal immigration, the biggest hot topic in UK politics, you can stop it overnight. There are many ways of stopping it. Most of them are illegal right now. Change the law. You said you abide by the law. Change the law so we can stop.
Established you can't. I mean, you could shoot them. I wouldn't advocate for that.
Well, you just suggested it.
If you don't know where they come from, let's be clear, I don't think they should be shot. If you don't know where they come from, you can't deport them.
But we know where they came from.
How do you know?
France.
Ben keeps telling us they throw out their passports. He says we should go to war with France.
Matthew, you've been incredibly disingenuous.
I'm being 100% serious.
They came
because this is the
okay. You just gave me serious eyes. It didn't change what you said. What you said was we don't know where they came from. They came from the north coast of France. We send them back there.
Paul, I'll tell you what. Good luck. You should apply. You should run for reform and then become the bloke in charge of sending people to France when the French say you can't come into our waters. Good luck with that.
Matthew, so I know you think that I'm being, facetious and trivial and just maybe a bit, silly saying this kind of thing, but what do you think France would do? What are they going to do? Lob croissants at us?
All I can tell you, with absolute certainty, it's national emergency according to you because you want it to be one. I can tell you with absolute certainty that if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, it is a possibility, he will not be sending people to France without French permission. And I will come back onto this show if you're still in a job and I'm still a political commentator in 3 years' time, and I will say I told you so. I won't take much relish in it, but it is fantasy politics.
All right, well, President Trump has proven in 12 months you can just do things. Somebody asked me the other day, what's your biggest takeaway from being in America for 4 months, 5 months? I said, you can just do things. You don't need to get focus groups or go and consult lawyers and
we could go to war with France
speak to Lord Hermer.
If that's what you want, we could do it.
If you want to stop crime, you can just do it. If you want to stop the boats, you can just kick them out and stop them coming in. You can just do things. All this academic, intellectual debate.
It's only nonsense if you abide by the convention.
If you abide by the law and you don't go to war.
But you just changed the law. Every law you're talking about was manufactured.
You can't change French law and you can't change international law. What he can do and what he said he would do is send people to Afghanistan even though they might get murdered and tortured there, something I disagree with. But the Afghans would have to take them back in the first place. The Taliban, with whom he would do a deal, would have to take them back in the first place. And if you don't know they're Afghan, by the way, how are you going to send them back to Afghanistan?
I'm sure the Taliban would do a deal, lob them a couple of billion, which you'd spend on hotels anyway. I'm sure they'd take them back. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live. Vice President JD Vance has said what Brits daren't. More on that next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy start to the new week as we head up towards Christmas, but it will be a lot more settled as well. It will stay mild, but as we head up towards the big day, things will start to cool down a little bit. But for the rest of today at least, we still have some rain across the northern parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and that will slowly start to move its way off towards the north as we head towards the afternoon. Further south, there's plenty of cloud around. There is quite a few breaks, so there will be some sunnier spells and probably some brightness just trying to filter its way through where we do get any gaps. But temperatures, again, still on the mild side, probably highs of around 10 or 11 Celsius, possibly even a 12 in the very far southeast. Now, as we go through the overnight period, that cloud is going to stick around. We could even see it thick enough in a few places just to see some hill fog and possibly some outbreaks of some light rain and drizzle, mostly across the southwest and across Wales here, but a few more breaks across Northern Ireland and again across Scotland, where the Grampians do have that thickest clouds. That's where we'll see some more hill fog and some light rain and drizzle as well. But we do have some clearer spells up towards the north here as well. So it will start to turn a little bit cooler where we do get those breaks overnight period, but further south that cloud will start to fill in once again, and we're not having too many in the way of some clearer spells down here. Still some odd light rain and drizzle and maybe a possible few showers across the southwest for the early part of Tuesday morning, but mostly a frost-free night to come. Most temperatures around sort of mid-single figures, lows of around 2 or 3 up towards Scotland where you do see a few more of those breaks. Tuesday is going to be another cloudy day, unfortunately. Not too many breaks here, maybe just a couple across the north and across Scotland, but much more in the way of some cloud across the south, and those showers just continuing across that southwestern coast as well. But it will be a much cooler day on Tuesday. We are losing that heat a little bit, so temperatures highs of around 8 or 9 degrees, maybe just around the seasonal average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you are very much on our team.
That was Vice President J.D. Vance speaking at the Turning Point America Fest in Arizona. I think it was earlier today. A resounding speech. Jennifer, when was the last time you apologised for being white?
As the Vice President said, like, why should we judge people on things they have absolutely no control over, right?
Yeah.
Which is the color they're born, the gender they're born, when they were born, right? Ageism, all that sort of thing. So he's exactly right. And this DEI thing, it was not helping anyone out. And as a matter of fact, you know, when you had the former President Biden say he said, I'm going to have a black woman as one of the Supreme Court justices, she could have been the greatest choice in the whole world, but everybody's going to automatically think she only got that because she ticked a DEI box. So it's also not helpful to people who are really deserving of the roles.
And Matthew, talking about just getting things done in America, they have scrapped DEI. Over here, if we tried to scrap DEI, they say, well, what about the Equalities Act? Well, this lawyer here says, what about the Human Rights Act?
First of all, just you didn't quite answer Ben's question, which I thought was an interesting question. When did you last apologise for being white?
Never.
Right, but there was J.D. Vance saying you no longer have to apologise for being white.
No,
which
but
is complete nonsense.
He's talking about DEI scheme.
He's talking about DEI scheme.
Let's take him at his word, because he's the Vice President of your country. I've never apologised for being white. Have you ever apologised for being white or been asked to?
Not directly, no.
No, nor have I.
Well, you've always been asked to all the time, indirectly, from schools tell kids to. You've preached about colonialism.
It's not a gotcha, though, Matthew, because it's quite apparent.
Matthew, the left's whole agenda is mostly fuelled by this white guilt that Britain needs to apologise.
The centre left, the far left. I mean, who are you talking about with the left? It's a massive spectrum.
I haven't got a name. Who
do you think the
far right bandwagon is full of? When Keir Starmer, after people emotionally reacted to what happened in Southport, called everybody who reacted to it in his perceived negative way, jumping on the far-right bandwagon. Who do you believe, what colour of the skin were the people on this imaginary bandwagon?
I don't think this...
But you know what the answer is, Matthew? The answer is white.
I'll answer your question because you asked it, OK? So I'm not sure it's particularly fruitful to revisit the riots, but if you want to, my view of those riots were if you attack asylum hotels and try to set fire to them, or if you attack mosques, or if you attack police officers when you are surrounded by people who are doing those sorts of things that I've just described, then that's pretty far right for me. The far left, by the way, could be very violent as well. I condemn violence entirely. On the DEI thing, personally, I haven't really experienced DEI in this country. I don't really understand it. I don't get a sense of it.
Can I tell you?
Try to explain. Give us some examples.
So white working class kids in this country, by government data, are the most underprivileged and given the least opportunities out of any other demographic. So
working class boys.
That is DEI, working class boys. That is DEI in action.
Listen, I am all for people from working class backgrounds, don't care what colour their skin are, being
I'm sure you are, but I'm just saying...
Hang on, being given as many opportunities as people who come from middle class backgrounds such as mine.
Yeah, but
the funny thing is that when we talk about issues such as private schools and putting VAT on private schools, you, I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, we say this is outrageous. We should be focusing on state schools. We should be focusing on social mobility. We should be making sure that people like me don't get all the cake. Not by giving positive discrimination, but by upping the quality of our state education.
Also, the RAF, some years ago, last year, the RAF had to apologise for recruiting non-white pilots. And there was such a pilot shortage that they had to reverse their decision. There's a litany of examples.
Non-white pilots. They had to apologise for...
Yeah, they did. They had an advert disencouraging white men to apply for the RAF.
That's not what he said, but OK. Listen...
Also, by the way, Matthew...
People should be judged according to their quality. Of course they should. All I would say that positive discrimination such as it has existed in our country was at the very least well-intentioned, because we know that some people, and you're right about white working class kids as well having challenges, it was designed to make sure that people like me who went to a private school, who have a good dollop of privilege in my life, don't get all the cake.
But, but what we want is equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome.
We don't have that.
But they were gaming the system over the last few years and making it equality of, or equity rather, of outcome. And that's fake, and that's not meritocracy.
The question is how you get there.
OK, JD Vance, his speech at the America Fest was great. He talks about so many things, not just DEI and the scrapping of DEI. He also had this to say about Christianity.
Because we're all creatures of God, we must respect each individual's pathway to that God. But over the last 50 years, there has been a singular focus, a war that has been waged on Christians and Christianity in the United States of America. Freedom of religion transformed into freedom from religion. And in a public square devoid of God, we got a vacuum. And the ideas that filled that void preyed on the very worst of human nature rather than uplifting it. What are the fruits of these people and their principles? And the answer is a man named Tyler Robinson who killed my friend. Think about it. He is everything that the far left want from our young men. He rejected the conservatism and the spirituality, the values of a small town family. He moved into a small apartment. He became addicted to porn. He became addicted to hate. And he ended up sleeping with somebody who doesn't know whether they're a man or a woman. That is the nightmare scenario, but that is the scenario that the left has actively advertised they want for American families. And the young men in the audience in particular. That is exactly why we have to fight them. Because the fruits of true Christianity are men like Charlie Kirk.
To that on his rhetoric. So he there said to the young men in particular, young men, we often hear about young men as being of fighting age, don't we? I think that's a very provocative and unhelpful phrase. But he talks about the young men in particular. This is why we have to fight them. Now, of course, he didn't mean we have to fight them physically.
No.
But had that come out of the mouth on someone on the left, that same man, your vice president, might very well have said that is dangerous rhetoric. You shouldn't be using words like fight in a febrile atmosphere. And I'm just returning to what I was saying earlier. There is a lot of hypocrisy on both sides, to the extent there are two sides. There are many more sides. As you rightly pointed out, our politics in this country is becoming increasingly fragmented. But don't call something out on the other side if you're prepared to do it yourself.
Jennifer, what do you make of the Vance's proposition that in the absence of Christianity you have what he was describing was just the devil, basically. He says in the absence of Christianity of God you've got a bunch of degenerates running around and the kind of behaviour that Tyler Robinson is accused of portraying.
Well, I mean there is an argument to be made that when somebody does not have some kind of faith, and in this case he's talking about Christianity, it leaves the door open for other things to come in and, capture your mind. We know that, like, back in Soviet times, they wanted to do away with religion, right? They wanted you to believe in the state. They wanted you to believe in some cause. There's a lot of people that say, part of the reason that people went so COVID crazy is because they did not have faith in something else. If you look at during COVID, the Christians were actually the ones that had the most faith and fought back and questioned things. So,
Jennifer, have you heard of the IRA? Have you heard of the Crusades? Have you ever heard of Islamofascism, Islamist extremism? Where God is involved, often the devil manages to slide in. And the idea that the many people watching this morning, the GB News viewers, that they all have to be Christian, otherwise...
I didn't say that.
No, but the suggestion was that where there isn't
I said faith.
Fine. Or
said
any other
any
religion.
kind of faith.
But where the GB News viewers who this morning, who, like me, I'm now an agnostic, I was confirmed as a Christian, lost my faith. The idea that we are somehow more open to the devil than people who happen to be Christian, Muslim, Buddhist or whatever is...
I think the phrase here is Christian values, which Vance did go on to say wasn't in their clip. He says, look, we're not requiring you all to go to Bible classes and to church every Sunday, but he said the nation was built on Christian values, if nothing else.
It was, and that was not questioned when I was growing up. Like we said, the Pledge of Allegiance, we said, saying my country tis of thee, like most people had some sort of faith, and it wasn't just Christians. There was Jewish, there was Muslim, there was all sorts of things. And I think that people who have faith oftentimes are just, and yes, it can go crazy and wars can be started over it.
How many people have died as a consequence of religion?
Well, I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I couldn't tell you
a lot. I'm just saying that in America...
Well, 16 of them died last weekend, Matthew, because of religion.
We're having a correction in America because for the last couple of decades, like people, especially young people, had, gone away from God. And you have these 18 to 29-year-old men who want to start families, who want to get married, who want to have children, and they are finding their way back to God. And J.D. Vance is saying that is a good thing for our country. Yeah. Time will tell, but I think he's right.
I think religion of any sort, when it becomes too entwined, and we are a Christian country and we have an established Church of England, but when it inserts itself into politics in the way that it increasingly seems to be in the United States, I actually find that rather sinister.
Paul, what's your take?
Well, I don't find faith sinister. I'm a man of faith. I'm very uncomfortable with judging people who aren't. I don't think that if you're not a person of faith, you don't have a moral backbone, or you can't live a good life, and you don't know the differences between right and wrong. I know Jennifer wasn't saying that. And neither was Matthew, by the way. Matthew wasn't saying that either. But I think that there has been I think J.D. Vance said this, there has been a void, a vacuum left by the lack of faith. And if you just want to look at things like population growth, those that have a faith are outgrowing those that don't. So the white Christian cohort that was once the UK is now so without faith that it's put everything else before faith that it is shrinking, it's not growing. Whereas if you look at the Muslim cohort, it is growing exponentially. And that is a problem, because you have to decide whether you want to remain a Christian country or not. And at this rate, I think somebody said just recently that 2062 was a year that it would become parity between Christian and Muslim in the UK because of the way that one is declining and one is growing. You have to make a decision as a society, as a country, on whether you want that or not.
Sorry, what do you mean by decision? You're going to say to Muslims that they should stop having children?
No, I'm saying that we should encourage people to have children, and we have to make a decision whether you want that to be we want this to be a majority Muslim country or a majority Christian country.
I don't think that's a decision that most people going
You absolutely can.
Their daily lives are starting to ask themselves, are we going to become a Muslim country? We've got a tiny percentage of
Mental.
Muslims.
We just saw last weekend that there is a sect of the Muslim faith that are hell-bent on destroying people of Jewish or Christian faith. Hell-bent, Matthew.
Sorry.
And it is Muslims and it is Islamists.
Why are you getting excited about Muslims?
Why am I getting excited? There was a 9-year-old girl shot in the head, Matthew.
Sorry. Why are you trying to say that as though you have now somehow got me? I am half Jewish myself, right? So Islamist extremists would no doubt like me dead. I've got no truck for Islamist extremists any more than you do. We're all vulnerable, but if anything, I'm more vulnerable than you as someone who's half Jewish by ethnicity.
This is not
lectures about it. We're not talking about how have you moved? How have you moved?
You are questioning me on lecturing people. You've made this the Matthew Stadland show all night. This is utter madness, Matthew.
There's 3 of you and 1 of me. How have you managed to get from this idea that Muslims are going to outnumber non-Muslims by 2062?
Not my statistics.
To the Bondi Beach massacre last weekend. You are putting 2 and 2 together and getting 7.5, and you're using a truly evil act, a massacre of Jewish
which people are denying the essence of.
Sorry, what are they denying?
People are making guns the problem. I'm no gun fan, but irrespective of whether there was a gun law improvement in Oz, it wouldn't have changed what happened last weekend. Two Muslim men walked around killing old people and children because they have a psychopathy of the Islamist faith.
What you've just said is very important. 2. So you go to say to Muslims that they shouldn't be having children because some people of the Muslim
I didn't say Muslims shouldn't have children.
What's your policy shift?
I'll tell you what
What's your policy shift?
So I'll tell you what he was saying. He was saying, you said yourself, this is a Christian country. If you want it to remain a Christian country, then we need to do something to preserve Christian values. That includes having families and starting children, which is what J.D. Vance was talking about. He said, in the absence of God, whatever your manifestation of God is, it could be a guy with a beard in the sky, it could be you believe in a universal force, whatever. It could be Arsene Wenger, for me. Whatever your belief in God, we need to uphold Christian values. Otherwise, Great Britain, as per many studies, in decades, centuries to come, will not be a Christian country anymore.
What I want is for people in our country of whatever faith, and we are now, whether you like it or not, a multi-faith society, to behave well. And if they behave badly, whatever faith they are, if they break the law, the full force of law should come down on them.
There seems to be an issue with...
Your convention's failed. Matthew, you're talking about politics that died 5-6 years ago. You are, absolutely. You've just said that you are... Matthew, I've never done this, ever. But please just give me a second. You've been speaking non-stop. Please. This multiculturalism experiment has been running concurrently for 30, 40 years. It's a failed convention. It's brought about nearly every issue we have in society in the Western world today. It has failed. There is time and space for something new. What you're talking about is like listening to an old man that's lost memory.
You're seriously telling that millions and millions of people in this country who are not ethnically white, that they are part of a failed experiment? That is a shameful and disgraceful thing to say. And if you think it's old-fashioned, multiculturalism, I believe that people should sign up to something British, should sign up to something English. We've got a black African English captain of the England rugby team, just as an example.
Where's colour coming from? At no point did I mention colour.
Sorry, where do you think these people come from if they're not white originally? They come from other countries. You're talking about a failed experiment.
As soon as you bring colour into it...
Oh, colour's got nothing to do with it then, has it?
No, as soon as you bring colour into it, you're using the old convention. It's almost like saying
because you're not happy to talk about black people or brown people. It's only people...
Why would I not be happy to talk about black people?
Because you're talking about a failed experiment. Be specific.
I'm talking about putting a melting pot of different cultures together and it failing.
All right, Jennifer? Any thoughts? Or are you just enjoying the...
I'm just enjoying the back and forth. Yeah, I guess,
Jennifer.
you know, we'll let the Brits comment on
JD
this one.
Vance himself there said, it's not about skin colour, we don't care where you're from, it's about the content of your character.
Exactly.
And what Paul is saying is that multiculturalism, and I have to agree, and I'm sure many viewers would agree, hasn't worked. We should have a monoculture. You should have the British culture.
That sounds a bit totalitarian. I am someone who thinks that people should be able to practice
multiculturalism's totalitarian.
their own religion, but they should also sign up to, as they do in America, largely, sign up to a national identity. I'm very strong on national identity. But the idea that you're telling millions of people around the country they're part of a failed experiment is a really disgraceful thing to say, if that's what you mean.
A great question, if that's what I mean. You have no idea if that's what I mean. I don't think
you were speaking for me earlier. Is it what you mean or not?
So I don't think throughout my whole debate and dialogue with you that you actually listened to what I said. I think you stuck entirely to the tracks of the convention.
Say it. Make it clear for someone as stupid as I am.
No, I would never say you're stupid, Matthew. I would never say you're stupid. I've never said you're stupid. The same way as I never brought colour into this. I talked about Christian values versus Muslim values. And no one from the Christian cohort wandered around a beach last week and shot children in the head.
So what are you saying to the 4 million British Muslims going about their lives in a law-abiding way, including, by the way, many hundreds of thousands of British Muslim children? You're telling those children that they are part of a failed multicultural experience.
That is absolutely mental. No one's saying that.
So
no one's saying that.
By the way, it's not just
people. That's no one saying that.
People were allegedly involved in a massacre of Jews.
Matthew, take a breath, please. Matthew Staddon. Paul's not just talking about terrorist attacks. We can talk about all sorts of reasons why multiculturalism hasn't worked out. What about language? There's millions of people in this country who don't speak a word of English.
That's just simply factually incorrect. It is not true. There are millions of people in this country who cannot speak English. Do I think it's
something like 1.7 million?
Sorry, do I think it is important for people in this country to speak English? Of course I do. Do I despise Islamist extremists? Of course I do. But the idea that we have a failed experiment is profoundly offensive to the millions of people in this country who are actually part of a very successful, relatively speaking,
OK, we've got to go.
Yeah, cool.
Last question. Are you going to Paul's house for Christmas drinks?
I haven't been invited.
I'm sure he'll invite you in a minute. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate your company tonight.
Happy Christmas to everyone.
Yeah, no, Matthew, I would invite you. I would gladly share a glass of something with you, Matthew.
Yeah. Glass of something strong. Right, yes, I'm back tomorrow night on Monday at midnight UK time. 2 more shows of The Late Show Live this year. I'm covering for Beth Turner, who is already enjoying her Christmas hollybobs, the lucky so-and-so.
Oh, good for her.
Thank you, panel, for tonight. Matthew Staddon, Jennifer.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Are you going back to America? What's your plan?
I fly at 11:30 this morning.
Oh.
So.
Oh, wow.
You're going to the airport?
Yeah.
Oh, safe travels. Thank you for being with us. Paul, thanks very much. And viewers back home as well. I've seen all your comments tonight. Apologies I've not got to all of them, but I have seen them. Thank you so much. Sweet dreams, good night, have a great Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow night from midnight. See you.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy start to the new week as we head up towards Christmas, but it will be a lot more settled as well. It will stay mild, but as we head up towards the big day, things will start to cool down a little bit. But for the rest of today at least, we still have some rain across northern parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and that will slowly start to move its way off towards the north as we head towards the afternoon. Further south, there's plenty of cloud around. There is quite a few breaks, so there will be some sunnier spells and probably some brightness just trying to filter its way through where we do get any gaps. But temperatures again still on the mild side, probably highs of around 10 or 11 Celsius, possibly even a 12 in the very far southeast. Now as we go through the overnight period, that cloud is going to stick around. We could even see it thick enough in a few places just to see some hill fog and possibly some outbreaks of some light rain and drizzle, mostly across the southwest and across Wales here, but a few more breaks across Northern Ireland and again across Scotland. Where the Grampians do have that thickest clouds, that's where we'll see some more hill fog and some light rain and drizzle as well. But we do have some clearer spells up towards the north here as well. So it will start to turn a little bit cooler where we do get those breaks overnight period, but further south that cloud will start to fill in once again, and we're not having too many in the way of some clearer spells down here. Still some odd light rain and drizzle and maybe a possible few showers across the southwest for the early part of Tuesday morning, but mostly a frost-free night